Bang, bang. Are we here?
Bang, bang. We are.
Michael, we here?
Yeah.
The bangarang.
I like it. Maybe a little early start, so we'll give people a minute to get in, but we're here.
Hope everybody's doing well.
Hell yeah. We got a relatively medium show today since we had an interview last week. Check that out if you haven't seen it. It's with our friend Jennifer Reyes. And
super interesting.
You're hearing it here
Episode
first on Sunday. Also, we have a guest coming in. We'll reveal him at the end of the show.
Very special guest.
Very early podcast. Wasn't on Wednesday because it didn't fit within our times.
Yeah.
Schedules.
But we make it work.
Alright.
So we'll have a good show Sunday. How's everyone's week been?
It's been good. Fucking working, man. Fucking been busy as shit.
Yeah, likewise. Do we want to get started, or does anyone have anything they want to say before we start? Yeah. Let's kick it off.
Get it going.
Let's open it up. We're starting off first with some current events. Today, I believe it was today. Yeah, 12 hours ago. There's an article by Fox, if we want to get that pulled up. So, as many people know, the police officer who took George Floyd's life, Derek Chauvin.
Yeah, chauvinist, white chauvinist.
Yeah, he was released from jail today on a $1 million bond after just blatantly killing somebody in broad day on camera. So we're gonna go ahead and go into the article really quick, starting off from the top. Derek Chauvin has been released from jail after posting a $1 million bond. Chauvin has been jailed in segregation at the maximum security Oak Park Heights, Minnesota prison, awaiting a March 8th trial in the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. A Minnesota Department of Corrections spokesperson confirmed Chauvin was no longer being held in prison on Wednesday, and state court's record showed he posted a non-cash $1 million bail on October 7th, signed by A Affordable Bail Bonds, Brainerd, Minnesota. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that even, dude?
It's the most Minnesota town name.
Right.
Yeah, Brainerd.
Brainerd.
It actually does say Brainerd. Is it like, I don't remember, whatever. Keep going.
Minnesota bullshit. Was posted at 10:34 a.m. on October 7th. Jail records show he was released from Hennepin County Jail at 11:22 a.m. Chauvin had been at Oak Park Heights prison since May 31st. Department of Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell previously told Fox 9 such transfers of high-profile subjects from a county jail to state prison are not uncommon. Oak Park Heights is the same prison where former Minneapolis officer Mohammed Noor was moved after being arrested for the murder and the death of Justine Ruzchek. Sources confirm he was processed out of Hennepin County Jail once the bail was accepted. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has activated the National Guard to assist local law enforcement in the Twin Cities following Chauvin's release. The governor said that move was made out of an abundance of caution. Chauvin was arrested and charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter just 4 days after the Memorial Day death of George Floyd at the intersection of East 38th Street and Chicago Avenue in Minneapolis. The charge was later upgraded to second-degree murder at the same time. Attorney General Keith Ellison announced charges against the other three officers involved in Floyd's death. Chauvin, the officer seen kneeling on Floyd's neck in a bystander video, is charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Former officers Thomas Lane, J. Alexander Quang, and To Tao are all charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. All four officers were fired the day after the death of George Floyd. The Floyd family's attorney, Ben Crum, and co-counsel Antonio Romanucci released the following statement on Derek Chauvin's release on bond. Derek Chauvin released on on bond is a painful reminder to George Floyd's family that we are still far from achieving justice for George. The system of due process worked for Chauvin and afforded him his freedom while he awaits trial. In contrast, George Floyd was denied due process. When his life was ended over a $20 bill, there was no charge, no arrest, no hearing, no bail, just execution. Although George Floyd was denied justice in life, we will not rest until he's afforded full justice in death. The civil litigation team looks forward to our day in court. That's kind of as far as I wanted to go in it. I just thought it was pretty crazy that this guy who so blatantly murdered somebody is now out on bond. And
it's interesting to see the abundance of caution that they're trying to say they're moving on by cracking on protesters, but they'll just let this guy, he can pay bail and just chill out of prison.
No, yeah.
We don't need an abundance of caution in his case.
They want to give peaceful protesters the maximum sentence that they possibly can while letting a guy who actually killed somebody out on bail.
Yeah, chill on his lazy boy.
And not even... Exactly.
But he's a police officer.
And
he's not a threat to society or anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Police officers, don't don't murder people. Like, what is it? There's some crazy statistic this year. Like, there's only been like so many days where there hasn't been a police killing. I want to say it's like 97 or something ridiculous. But yeah, I just wanted to catch everybody up on that because that was pretty crazy, and some people might not have heard about that. I didn't hear about it until I think like my lunch break today.
Another part to like touch on that too, maybe to bring it to like our ballot stuff that's coming up. I think it's 25 is the one that they're gonna try to change cash bail here in California, and to where it's instead it's like you get assessed by public safety and flight risk. Imagine that in these kind of situations where you have guys like Derek. Yeah, he's not fucking getting out. Like, if we're being realistic, like, we're not going to set any kind of money or any kind of bail for him because he's a fucking public safety risk.
Yeah. Like, he literally, he murdered somebody. It was out of his power. The potential crime that was never verified that he committed.
Yeah. Just another way to show that cash bail doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Also, that is Proposition 25
to
end cash bail. It's Proposition 25. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story, another current event for today. It's an article here from the CBS.
Sweet.
Get that pulled up on the screen. So, as it reads right here at the very top, Facebook bans QAnon pages, groups, and Instagram accounts. Facebook announced Tuesday that it will remove pages, groups, and Instagram accounts representing the conspiracy movement QAnon, ratcheting up the social media giant's stance against the group. Supporters of QAnon claim America is run by pedophiles and child sex traffickers, and that President Trump is the only person who can stop them. The guy who left the inner circle because he's like, okay, eating babies and having sex with them is a little too much for me, Donald Trump.
Yeah. Accuse boys.
Somebody, accuse up, even though he's Jeffrey Epstein's big homie. But
Yep.
The group has been criticized for spreading misinformation and encouraging abuse online. That's kind of a softball. They definitely have, and from what little I've seen already since this article has been put out, we've already seen Q's say, "Oh, Zuckerberg did this because he's a Jew." Like, there's already the anti-Semitism's already full-fledged after this.
If you need,
it's only going to continue until they're pushed further into the recesses of the internet.
Just look at fucking Yair Netanyahu's like Twitter feed, and you'll understand how racist QAnon can get.
Starting today, we will remove any Facebook page. This is a statement from Facebook. Starting today, we will remove any Facebook pages, groups, and Instagram accounts representing QAnon, even if they contain no violent content, because ultimately the QAnon conspiracy is a violent idea, and it furthers like violent action eventually, even if they're not posting something that is directly violent. Well, I hope everybody can understand that. Facebook did not specify what it means to represent QAnon in the statement, but the Associated Press reported the platform will consider the name, biography, or about section as well as any discussions that occur on the page, group, or Instagram account. Well, reading that now, it's possible this could cause some accidental deletes of of pages that just simply were talking about it, and that will have to be resolved. But
maybe some backfire. Yeah.
Yeah. The company said it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and that's why you gotta really pick who's doing the censoring, and then how much power do you give them to censor.
Yeah, exactly.
We know it's fuck Facebook still, but
well, and of course the worst thing that's going to come from these kind of actions like this, especially in QAnon's case, is it's just going to legitimize everything they already believe, which is that the entire deep state is somehow against them, and that the only person that can save them is Donald fucking Trump.
I mean, but it's such a small vocal online.
So QAnon's not small. I mean, it's not huge, but it's definitely you could see it taking over a massive sect of evangelical politics, which is Trump's base. So it's
but Trump's base ultimately isn't huge.
It's still millions of people.
Yeah,
Yeah, which if you legitimize them to their end goal, which QAnon's whole deal is, well, let's actually kill the globalist pedophiles. It's I mean, it's more likely to just inspire individual action, like these guys going out and doing mass shootings and shit, rather than QAnon as a group. But yeah, I think that could still happen.
What I see happening mostly from this is the real QAnoners aren't, they're still going to be just as vocal on 4chan, 8chan. But what this is doing, at least how I see it, is it's just stopping all the fucking soccer moms from reposting Save Our Children shit. It's stopping people who are kind of oh, I don't like pedophiles, so I'll share this QAnon thing, and then they read more about it, and then okay, well the Jews do control the media. That's it kind of just cuts off that pipeline, I guess.
I guess we can assume it cuts off that pipeline, but we can't know that.
I mean, yeah, but soccer moms are going to 8chan kind of thing,
yeah,
the real QAnoners aren't going to go anywhere. But
yeah, you might get people that yeah, you're right, because the recent thing is now people that may not consider themselves extremely evangelical or conservative are now getting drawn into the QAnon movement, accidentally, because the Save the Children shit. But
yeah, exactly. It's cutting off.
Facebook? Do we trust Facebook to actually do that though? I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Highly skeptical.
I think it's just better to have. I think it's better to just have more awareness of what the movement's about.
Yeah.
Let's just be more upfront about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that comes with big tech companies like that to stop suppressing the left from
the left.
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
We have to completely restructure how we do this. We all definitely agree on that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we kind of touched on everything that's in the article already. We just kind of ran off and talked about it, so that's cool. So we can just we can move on now. We have a video here from the Michael Brooks show. Super awesome. Rest in peace to Michael Brooks. The people that are Matt and everybody, they're still killing it.
Yeah, we kind of just have this as an update piece from our last show.
Yeah, and it's talking about the Armenia-Azerbaijan thing.
Yeah. If you guys we'll just play, and if you guys have a question or want to talk, we'll just stop wherever. So don't hesitate.
Let's maybe move before we kind of get ready into debate mode. Azerbaijan and Armenia are in conflict right now. What do we need to know about that, Jane?
Well, this is a conflict taking place in a region that is very conflict prone, the Caucasus region. the Caucasus, for those who don't have like a great command of geography in their head, is this kind of mountainous buffer region that separates Russia in the north from, Turkey and Iran and the Middle East in the south. It is, like many mountainous regions, an extremely diverse region. There are a lot of different ethnic groups living there. Georgians, Armenians, Azeris are the sort of largest groups, but it's also home to Chechens, Dagestanis, Ossetians, Yazidis, Kurds, Tats, Talash, all these many different different groups. And in recent years, we've seen a number of conflicts break out in this region. 2008, we saw Russia's war with Georgia, which basically resulted, which was a kind of product of Russian support for some of the minorities living in Georgia, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. We saw, of course, the violence in Chechnya. We've seen violence in Dagestan. So this is a very tense region. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, there's been a number of different, the sort of political status quo that emerged in the 1920s after the formation of the Soviet Union broke down. And we've seen, violence throughout this region. So looking at the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia, it's, part of this sort of post-Soviet breakup and, the emergence of ethnic tensions within the region. I mean, like I always do, I always go back to like history, but, historically, the Caucasus were divided into the Ottoman sphere of influence and the Iranian sphere of influence. But in the 19th century, the Russians come in, they occupy this region, and they operate a divide and rule policy in the region. There was significant resistance to Russian rule in this region. Tolstoy has a famous book, Haji Murat, which is about, the resistance to the Russian occupation. So, Caucasus, with its ethnic diversity, is brought under Imperial Russian control. And basically, as the Russian Empire breaks down, and as nationalism becomes more powerful, we see growing conflict between the different national groups within the region, because for a region to be ethnically homogeneous, it takes a lot of violence. I often tell my students in Springfield, I said, it took a lot of effort and a lot of murdering to make Springfield, Missouri 90% white, right? So if we look in the Caucasus, Armenian, Azeris, Kurds, all these groups living side by side are interspersed with each other. So when you try and draw a territorial map, well, you're going to include Azeri populations in Armenia and Armenian populations in Azerbaijan, and there's going to be territories over which there are conflict. And Nagorno-Karabakh, which is this region that we're talking about now, is one of those regions where, just to give you an idea, you have in the west Armenia and the east Azerbaijan, and Nagorno-Karabakh is separated from the main body of Armenia, and so it's sort of surrounded as an enclave inside Azerbaijan. And, you had conflict here from 1905, from the 1905 revolution. And then after the end of the First World War, we had, with the collapse of the Tsarist regime, there's an attempt to create a federation in the Caucasus, the Transcaucasian Federation. This breaks down. And one of the reasons it breaks down is there's conflict between Armenians and Azeris over territory, specifically over this Nagorno-Karabakh region. Now, when the Soviets enter Azerbaijan in 1921, I think it is, this conflict is kind of put on ice, and the Soviet Union sort of attempts to come up with some kind of system to deal with the national question. And, one of the big questions facing the Soviet Union was, how do you transform a multinational empire into a socialist federation? How do you deal with this ethnic diversity within the Russian Empire? So we had the emergence of this federative model, right? And in the Soviet Union, there were various levels of autonomy. So the highest level of autonomy was SSR, Soviet Socialist Republic. Those were Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, the Baltic countries, and of course, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. These were all federative republics constituting the Soviet Union. But of course, as I mentioned, you have all these enclaves, all these interspersed groups. So there were other levels of autonomy sort of below that highest level, the ASSR, So for example, Chechnya wasn't SSR. It had a lower level of autonomy within the Russian Federation. And Nagorno-Karabakh, the solution the Soviets came to was to grant that region autonomous status within the Republic of Azerbaijan. So it was an Armenian-dominated enclave with autonomy within the Republic of Azerbaijan. Actually, one of the reasons I know a little bit about this is the territory that separates Armenia from Nagorno-Karabakh is known as the Lachin Corridor, and that was originally the home of what they called Red Kurdistan. It was a predominantly Kurdish region, a very small population of Kurds, and they named that region in the 1920s, Kurdistan, and that separated those two regions. So we have this situation where we have an autonomous enclave within Azerbaijan and an Armenian republic. Now, while the Soviet Union existed, this was not really a major deal because, of course, everybody is a citizen of the Soviet Union, right? But when you break up states, one of the things that happens is people have to pick an identity, right? People have to pick a passport. People have to pick a citizenship. So while the Soviet Union existed, this conflict could be managed to a certain degree. But, in the late 80s, with the opening up of the Soviet Union, with the breakdown of the Soviet Union, we begin to see, ethnic conflict coming to the fore, especially within the context of more limited resources and so on and so forth. And in one of the things that happens in the late 1980s, in 1988, the parliament of this autonomous region, Nagorno-Karabakh, expresses its desire to have itself transferred from the jurisdiction of Azerbaijan to being the jurisdiction under the jurisdiction of Armenia. Now, this is not unheard of. There is an Azerbaijani enclave called Nakhchivan, which is separated by Armenia from Azerbaijan, but is part of the had been part of the Azerbaijan SSR, right? So the Armenians were like, well, instead of this ASSR being part of Azerbaijan, why don't they, because they're Armenian, they should be part of Armenia. And of course, the Azeris weren't happy about this, and tension, grew throughout the late 80s. And this erupted in 1992 into a full-scale war. As once Azerbaijan and Armenia declare independence, you have this life and death struggle for this territorial entity, which declares itself independent. It declares itself its own independent Armenian state. And Armenia and Azerbaijan go to war between 1992 and 1994. It's a bloody conflict, and basically it sees about 1 million people are displaced. Probably 3/4 are Azeris, and about 1/4 of those displaced are Armenians. But the result is the Armenians are victorious. They managed to create a land bridge conquering the Lachin corridor and connecting Karabakh to Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia. So we basically have this kind of status quo, which the Russians kind of intervene in and say, okay, guys, calm down. Russia has a military base in Armenia. And so there is kind of like, it's put on ice, but the issue is never really solved. We have periodic clashes, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014. There are these periodic border clashes. Azerbaijan is kind of like saying, look, 9% of our territory is occupied by Armenia. Armenia is like, this is an ethnically Armenian place. And you have this like rumbling, low intensity conflict that flares up from time to time. Now, while this is happening, of course, there is an economic transformation taking place. Azerbaijan has, at the turn of the 19th century, nearly half the world's oil was produced in Azerbaijan. So it's a very oil-rich country. And, over the last couple of decades since the fall of the Soviet Union, Azerbaijan has been under the control of the Aliyev family, Haydar Aliyev, and then his son Ilham Aliyev. And actually, Ilham Aliyev's wife, I forget her name, she's the vice president. So you have this kind of family mafia with connections to Rudy Giuliani, who's done some lobbying. There's all kind of weird connections. So Azerbaijan is getting rich off this oil.
We can pause it there for right now, Carlos. Yeah, I think really that is kind of the key, though, is all this is really sparked by, different imperial ambitions, both from, old imperial ambitions from the Soviets and, now from modern Russian Federation and us. Like, we're trying to take over that area because it's extremely oil rich, and we've just stoked
Russia's trying to take over because it's extremely oil rich.
Yeah, same reason, and we've both stoked the fire for racial tensions because that's to that end.
Creates
and yeah,
good sides to pick and choose from.
Yeah, exactly, and we have to. You could see where the Soviets went wrong too. Like there was some project there of unifying all those countries together in a way, some kind of solidarity. But as soon as it became imperialist like this, and it was all about the resources in the certain areas, and it didn't even matter if this specific area was, entirely Armenian. Let's keep it part of this country because it's easier for us to get oil or whatever the reason is. So
it's like that. It's like that draw a map of the Middle East thing.
Yeah, the sites one. Yeah.
Yeah, but they just did that with fucking the outer.
They just carved up whatever they want because imperialism's a sick fucking disease, and it can infect any country.
They left it blank. We'll take this.
Yeah, they fucked up. And look, it's even the Soviet Union fell apart in the end of the 80s, and it's still fucking everything's still going wrong in that area. They still haven't figured it out. So, and they will continue to not, because it's all if anything, unless they do a legit socialist revolution, it's gonna stay that way. You're gonna be stuck in the same
the transition into the transition into capitalism will just further continue.
Yeah, they're just gonna be stuck.
Yeah.
But that's all I had for that one. I thought it was really informative. So shout out to Michael Brooks show.
Yeah, shout out to the Michael Brooks show, man. So I actually have a pretty really a very interesting piece to talk about, and huge W for the left, by the way. I have this article I'm going to read through from Tribune really quick to kind of give backstory on the situation, because I had no idea. It's Greece, so I had no idea about it.
Yeah.
But this is actually super interesting. At the top, we're starting from the top. October 7th is Judgment Day for Greek fascism. After 5 years of deliberation, the sentence will be handed down tomorrow in the trial of Greek fascist organization Golden Dawn, one of the most important anti-fascist legal cases since Nuremberg, which is that's a heavy fucking title, and so it kind of instantly drew me in. And so this was, as you can see right here at the top, written yesterday. The court hearing did happen already, and we'll get to that after I read through this. But I think the backstory is important. So starting from the top here, Golden Dawn is the political organization that was founded during the early 90s. Started as criminal activity in 1992, gained political clout in 2010, and managed to elect 18 MPs in June of 2012. Over the span of 3 decades, it committed dozens of crimes for which mostly it had never been prosecuted. The political system saw the neo-Nazi organization as a marginal group of far-right extremists. They might have loved Hitler, but they were too small to matter. However, when the economic crisis broke out in Greece, the never-ending impoverishment of the people, along with the indifference of the political elite and their harsh policies, paved way for the Golden Dawn to do some serious groundwork and gain access to the masses for the first time. And it's like, just reading that, like, you can instantly see the parallels when looking at Nazi Germany. Like you have this, you have this huge economic crash, and regardless of how the backstory is led up to that, but you have huge economic crash, and you have these just huge issues staring everybody in the face, and then you have these people and they come in and scapegoat somebody else, as well. They scapegoat like a small minority group, and then just basically make their entire thing like, fuck these people, they're the problem. Getting back into it, it built up the anti-systemic profile, selected neighborhoods of Athens and PARIAH with the right social criteria, and updated its rhetoric according to what the residents of each area expected to. More particularly in the urban and high-density area of Agios. I'm not going to try to even read the second part. Agios and Athens. Golden Dawn founded groups of far-right indignants to prevent migrant children from playing in the public playground. So yeah, you can already see where this is going. Yeah, you won't even let fucking migrant children play in a playground because you're so fucking.
And as we've covered before, like the majority elected government of Greece has legitimized this kind of fucking behavior by mass deportation of migrants and inhumane.
Yeah, like we've covered before, Greek like the Greece immigration or whatever, like left immigrants literally out in the water floating.
Yeah, so and then they expect this kind of shit not to happen, like right-wing groups to come up that hate migrants, like
or like Donald Trump. The media has propped up Donald Trump for decades, and it's surprised when he gains a massive following and they believe everything he says.
Yeah, and like Carl said, that's
they
nothing
created
new. Like,
that personality that people have
Donald
attached
Trump's
to.
been fucking racist. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting back into it. These groups were quite vocal and successful at popularizing a narrative of migrants as a force for the lowering their wages and conducting criminal activity against the so-called native Greeks. Like you can immediately think about how people like Tucker Carlson have done the same thing here in the United States. Even is going as far as to misrepresent Cesar Chavez's point of that was a huge thing that happened. He went on PragerU and just completely misinterpreted Cesar Chavez's perspective on illegal immigration, and used it as a way to continue to attack and like create almost this like predatory image of undocumented citizens.
Yeah, Tucker likes to use that one, and he likes to use racist MLK. Those are his favorite.
Those are, They didn't only develop the view that immigrants steal jobs, which are meant for Greek people. They took it even further, attacking communist trade unionists over the perception that immigrants cause unemployment among union members. So, attack immigrants, attack the leftists, blame the leftists and the immigrants for all the issues of the country. Do whatever you can to hide your message and to scapegoat. Golden Dawn lived a double life. During the day, they enhanced their political reach through solidarity actions for Greeks, Greek nationalists, Greek pride, etc., etc. But their most successful activities were done during the night. Those activities included brutal attacks on immigrants, even going as far as murdering Shahzad Luqman, a Pakistani man in his late 20s. From 2010 to 2013, Golden Dawn's rise led to electing representatives to the Municipality Council of Athens, 2010, and then to the Hellenic Parliament in 2012. All these years, as it turned out, the political system provided a protective environment to the organization, as the police and the judiciary cleared the way for the formation of fascist battalions in the tradition of black shirts. I think it's important to draw ties to what we see in our own countries. We have our government legitimizing far right militias like the Proud Boys, and stand by and stand back,
or stand back.
I'm not exactly. I'm not saying go and do something, but if you do something,
what's that meme you posted? What instead of the Proud Boys is talking about like hoes?
Telling all my hoes to stand back.
No, your girl comes and tells you, I want you to denounce your hoes, and then
look, stand back, but stand by.
Internal reports coming from the party itself, combined with the fact that Golden Dawn has a tremendous political influence in the police union, show a clear linkage between the armed wing of the party and the police forces, often operating in cooperation at demonstrations and migrant centers. In the judicial field, every time indictments were brought to justice, charges were usually light and sentences were soft. So yeah, just continued government support of legitimization of these Nazis, like actual fascists, like people who don't care if you call them that because it's what they are and they're proud to be a fascist. Getting into the next piece, justice for Pablo Fias. After a sustained campaign to bring them justice, Golden Dawn was finally prosecuted and faced trial. Its verdict is due tomorrow, October 7th. 69 members, party officials, and MPs of Golden Dawn have been charged. All members of the 2012 Golden Dawn's parliamentary party face serious charges. The triggering factor in bringing the trial was the murder of the anti-fascist musician Pavlos Faisas. Sorry for butchering the name. And the campaign which followed. Pavlos and his friends were attacked in 2013 by an organized and armed group of Golden Dawn members in the working class area of Karatsini, Athens. He was stabbed 3 times. In his final minutes, Pavlos was able to point the killer out to police officers who, according to eyewitness, were at the scene much earlier but didn't do anything to prevent the assault. In addition to this, the fascist assault against Egyptian fishermen and communist trade unionists provided an important backdrop to the trial. Golden Dawn members, together with officials and far-right activists, are accused of joining a criminal organization, profiling the Golden Dawn in this way, rather than a political party, which mischievous members was a turning point for the trial. As a result, its MPs are now charged as managers of a criminal enterprise.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. The trial began April 20th, 2015, and ended about a month ago. Last December, the public prosecutor made a personal, provocative proposal on the charges. She demanded the acquittal of all the party officials who were accused of criminal actions and assault, except the murder of Pavlos Faisas. This suggestion, if put forward, will signal Golden Dawn is no longer a criminal organization. Fuck that chick. I don't know who she is, but fuck her.
Ridiculous. They have a 5-year period between trial and conviction too, where they could just fucking do more shit. But... And
and continuing on, this part's very interesting. It's cool to see the collective action of people. This prospect angered Greek society. Shortly afterwards, organizations, parties, and groups of the left, as well as broader anti-fascists, initiated the "They Are Not Innocent" campaign as a collective cry of concern. The campaign was embraced by thousands of people who signed the founding manifesto and produced solidarity actions across Europe. Many political personalities, MEPs, MPs, writers, intellectuals, and activists already supported the campaign. So it's cool to see a collective action from the Greek left, but also the broader European left.
Right.
Last little section here, and then we're going to get into the quick CNN article with the update on the court case. A day for Europe to remember. After 5.5 years, 453 hearings, 68 defendants, 131 witnesses for the prosecution, 438 indictment documents, and 10 civil action attorneys, and 50 defense attorneys. The prosecutor is expected to announce the final verdict of this historical trial tomorrow, which is today. Large crowds will take to the streets outside the courthouse as unions, left political parties, social movements, anti-fascist campaigns take part in the popular demonstration against fascism. The verdict is a crucial moment of truth for the Greek people, as well as for those who still carry far-right views in public space. For a portion of Greek society, having experienced a fascist discourse which became normalized over the past decades, throwing refugee children out of their neighborhoods now seems normal. A kind of social civil war was fostered by the Troika and its austerity program, and it is not gone away. Only a just and definitive court ruling on October 7th could put an end to it. For Europe, this date will mark the end of one of the most significant political trials since Nuremberg. It will have an impact on every far-right party and movement. It could, in fact, signal the end of impunity for the operation of neo-Nazi and neo-fascist groups, which have been gaining strength on the continent. If the decision goes the correct way, it will announce that democracy is something which can defend itself and that justice can be found even in challenging times. This is no mean feat in a society as traumatized by crisis as Greece has become. So a beautiful article here by Tribune. Definitely check out Tribune. They're based in the UK. They're super awesome. And so getting into the CNN article with the update, I'm not going to read deep into it. I just want to like update everybody and let everybody know that everybody was found guilty, and as of the decision, sentences are going to be announced in the coming days. So huge win for the left. Super awesome to see this, and like a really awesome and huge fuck you to fascists all across the world. And on that note, I think we're going to go ahead and get into our break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Assange and a range of other topics. Thank you guys for sticking around, and
if
we'll
I could
be back.
point something out on the just quick. I think the end of that Tribune article is important too, because I mean, obviously this hearing and winning this hearing is important, but it needs to there too. But here also, we need stuff like this to happen. It has to make some kind of precedent, because it's got to be a broader coalition that's pushing against fascism in these other countries too. So hopefully that's the case. Like, hopefully this is a broader thing and it spreads.
Yeah,
it's not just some isolated incident.
No, 100%.
But yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, and with that, we're gonna go into our break. We'll be back. Hope you enjoyed the music. Go get some water. Go to the bathroom. Do what you got to do. We'll be back.
Much love. Thanks for staying with us.
Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again? But somehow we found our way and now we running shit. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again? But somehow we found our way and now we running shit.
Born and raised in the city of crime. Bald heads, tattoos, low riders and sunshine. A knucklehead, I chuck him up in the streets. Mama coming home from work, she laid some stars on my feet. A little rowdy motherfucker, daddy kept me straight. Stay in school, love your family, be loyal, never separate. Keep it solid on my toes until I passed away. I learned to stay afloat and be a man since back in the day. Now I'm cruising in the caddy with the little homies, passing down all the stories that my daddy told me. Staying straight, I got a baby on the way. But if you really want the fuck, I keep the baby in the safe. And I ain't scared of no one, just know you motherfuckers hate. On the G, living good and putting food up on their plates. I maneuver in the field, but like a coach, I'm making plays. Cause I learned to keep it real from the cradle to the grave. Ooh.
Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again? But somehow we found our way and now we running shit. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again? But somehow we found our way and now we running shit.
Since a youngin', I've been moving on them 10 toes, soaking up the game from my cousins and my kinfolk. Mama worked the grave and my papa had to get more, doing what he could to provide and never bitched off. Straight from the motherland, we handled in the city of the Ox. Gang bangers, street vandals, can't hang, you'll get damaged, get slayed or get vanished. Either way, you'll get slammed if you ain't really getting active. That's the real truth. Found some hoodlums, I was real too. Had each other's back, the only family that will shoot. Through all the dirt, we grew together, so we've been cool. Never need new homies, you don't know me and won't get to. Always kept it honest from the start. Every soldier by my side is always solid in the heart. Always weaving out these lanes, you can never feel my part. And I don't ever need to speak it, you can feel it when I walk.
Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again? But somehow we found our way and now we running shit. Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again? But somehow we found our way and now we running shit.
They want that old rough brace, swinging khaki hanging. Right. Tapes on wax is where the niggas stay banging. 06 high school, a nigga was a fool. Fat laces on my Chuck yelling, fuck the rules. Skipping class. Bitches with their ass tried to clown, but told her silly ass this the ham. Bitch, pussy hoe. None of you bitches can check my flow. Building through class, still yelling 94. 2L. I can take the liquor and it won't spill. That's right. Faded off the OE, got me chill. Watch out. Still coming with a story to tell. Young nigga, Mike's getting torn like ACL. We deep in the funk, give it up. We fucking it up. Right. Hanging out the coop, not giving a fuck. Who what? Can't fuck with this shit. No. Mobbing with the Evan Williams mellow in my pocket. Young nigga shooting like a rocket.
Back in the days when I I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the days, who would have thought that we would pick up again?
Yo.
I think we're back.
Hello.
I was saying Mosaic Michael's here.
What? Oh, is it doing it again?
Yeah.
Like every single podcast, dude, my fucking.
I'm pretty sure Michael's not real, and he's just some fucking.
No, I'm not. This
projection
is,
now.
I think everyone's in kind of Mosaic mode right now.
They're hacking.
Discord might be bugging a little bit.
They don't want
be
us
good
to
one
succeed.
podcast, and then the other podcast will just be, I don't know, shitty quality. I guess I don't know.
That song banged. I haven't heard that song before.
No, yeah, it's new.
Yeah,
just came out.
I like
Shout out.
the part where he was like, "Ho, pussy ass," and I was like, "Yeah."
Shout out, Surrealist, Inzam.
Hell
All
yeah.
Shout out, Sabi.
G Funk in the Nard. Bring it.
Yes,
Bring
sir.
it back. Do we want to kick it off with our Assange video?
Yeah.
This is a from On Contact, a little show that Chris Hedges has. I feel like Chris Hedges, check them out. It's on the Assange hearing, and obviously we haven't heard much about it because fucking none of the mainstream news is reported on it, and most reporters aren't allowed to actually be in there. But this guy, Craig Murray, is, and he has some interesting stuff to say about the trial.
It just shows the level of control we have in the media that anyone who'd even try to cover this for more than 5 minutes or any mention at all, really.
Yeah. Even though those institutions do have the ability, like as he'll say in the video, like CNN, MSNBC, they all have the ability to cover this fucking story. That just it's against their their corporate model, so they don't do it.
It goes against their profit motive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Former British Ambassador Craig John Murray, who was removed from his post
Can we turn it up a little
British
bit?
Ambassador to Uzbekistan when he publicly denounced the Uzbek government's widespread human rights violations, including the use of torture and the imprisonment of thousands of dissidents, has daily chronicled what he correctly calls the most important trial of the century and how it is being conducted. The hearing underway to extradite Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, to the United States. Murray's exhaustive reporting, which can be found on craigmurray.org.uk, has become one of the few sources of reliable information about a trial that has become notoriously difficult to cover because of court restrictions imposed on the press and is being ignored by most of the mainstream news organizations. Joining me from London is Craig Murray, the Tacitus of our time, who also served as the rector of the University of Dundee, and whose books include Skin Under Burns, Master of the Great Game, The Catholic Orangeman of Togo, and his memoir, Murder in Samarkand, which was turned by the playwright David Hare into a radio play. So, Craig, I've read all of your reports, which are really remarkable feats of journalism, rivaling perhaps Johnson. There, you pick up patterns of anomalies within this process, this kind of burlesque, this pantomime of justice. Lay out what those patterns are when they go after Julian. Everything from the Kronberg as the Holy Grail to these kind of strange decisions by the judge Baritza.
Yeah, you're quite right. There are several underlying patterns of happening, which really throughout the trial have dictated what goes on. One of those is that the witnesses for the prosecution cannot be cross-examined. So there is a U.S. Assistant Attorney from the Justice Department, Gordon Kronberg, who has given huge amounts of evidence which state essentially that prison conditions of the United States are absolutely fine, that there's not too much chance that Julian Assange would be held under special administrative measures, and numerous other very contentious statements, and he cannot be cross-examined on those statements. U.S. Government psychiatrists giving evidence about treatment of prisoners within the U.S. prison system cannot be cross-examined, and yet the prosecution can cross-examine all the defense witnesses. That's one example of the kind of structural inequality in these proceedings. But it's by no means alone. It really is quite remarkable the way that witnesses have been demeaned, have been humiliated, have been assaulted as to their integrity. And there's been a pattern to this. Every single defense witness has had their qualifications traduced, no matter how qualified they are, and a very large number of them have been professors of their subject. They've had their good faith assaulted. It's really been quite extraordinary. Very difficult to see good people subjected to this. And of course, overall, you have the overarching peculiarities. For example, the US-UK extradition treaty, specifically at Clause 4, excludes extradition for a political offence. And plainly, what WikiLeaks are accused of doing in terms of publishing classified information about war crimes, effectively, that's the very definition of a political offence. It wasn't done for financial gain. It wasn't done for any other motive than the political. And yet, the U.S. government and British government stance has been that clause of the treaty does not apply because it is incompatible with the British government legislation that implements the treaty. And that's really quite extraordinary, to say you are extraditing somebody under a treaty, but that a clause of the treaty under which you are extraditing does not apply. So there are...
we could pick and choose what rules
I could sit here for full evening just outlining the anomalies.
There's this clause that says no extradition.
Not a big fan of this section.
Can you talk a little bit about the decision?
Well, he'll go in how they do that too.
She's been very
like how they get
interventionist.
away
One
with
of the
that.
things you've noted in your reports is that she actually writes up her decisions on a laptop before she hears the testimony in the courtroom, but she's also excluded important witnesses for the defense. Can you talk a little bit about how she's conducted this hearing?
No, that's very true. And I would slightly correct you to say that certainly she reads out from a laptop pre-written judgments which are written before she hears the arguments. Of course, what happens is that if there's a decision, a procedural
so there is no
decision
judgment being made. It's just script reading.
But then they argue the case in front of her in court. She's briefed on the arguments, and sometimes
they've already made the decision.
A couple of hours as prosecution.
Like you said, it's a play.
Argue as to which way this call should go, and some of these are very big calls. They're calls as to how long the proceedings should last. They're calls as to whether witnesses should be seen in secret. They're calls as to whether witnesses may be called at all. They're calls as to whether there can be closing speeches. There are many key procedural issues.
So they're like the director of the play.
On which she has ruled.
Yeah.
And in every case, she brings with her into court rulings which have been written before she hears any of the arguments. So the entire charade of listening to the counsels arguing is entirely meaningless. And the point on which I would correct you is that you said that she brings into laptop judgments which she has written on her laptop, and that may well be true. But all we can say is she brings in judgments that somebody has written as she brings in on her laptop.
There's been a concerted effort to essentially keep this trial from being covered. You're one of just a handful of people who's been
He's sitting there on the edge of the building.
Courtroom. I think you got in as part of the kind of family group, if I'm not mistaken. Talk a little bit about and when you follow the proceedings, it's almost understandable because of this kind of almost farcical Gilbert and Sullivan type charade that's taken place, but talk about the mechanisms by which the British government has employed, several of them, to essentially keep the media out, and then, of course, the irresponsibility on the part of much of the mainstream media, which, including my old employer, the New York Times, who's just ignored the case, ignored the hearing.
Yeah, no, a couple of very, very important points there. The trial is heard in virtual secrecy. There are 42 seats in the public gallery in this particular court at the Old Bailey. Only 5 of us are allowed into the public gallery, and I'm there every day on the grounds I'm apparently Julian's uncle. In my family, we had people we called uncle who weren't actually uncles. It's not an unknown thing to have family uncles. So I'm Julian's uncle for these purposes.
He's saying you made
but
this
only
shit
5
up.
people in the public gallery. And then
I mean, you got to play along.
Video access
Yeah, hell yeah.
for NGOs and the media, but all, I believe, certainly virtually all, and I believe actually the whole lot of NGOs were cut off by the judge on day one, and that's groups as as big and formidable as Amnesty International and Reporters Without Borders had their access cut on the morning of the first hearing at the Old Bailey.
So they finally put up a border for the Reporters Without Borders.
And the judge explained that she decided it was in the interests of justice that their access should be cut. But how it is in the interests of justice that Amnesty International should not be allowed to follow the trial is something which nobody has yet explained, which it's impossible to understand. It is open to the major media organizations to follow it, and there's no particular reason that I understand why the Washington Post nor the New York Times can't get a video link. They would be able to get a video link, but they just haven't bothered. There has been a unanimous, virtually, decision among the mainstream media not to cover the case. It is quite astonishing, and yet the arguments which are being heard are of vital importance to them. And one thing which I think cannot be stressed too much is that the United States government has quite openly argued that they have the right to prosecute any journalist or any publisher who publishes US classified information anywhere in the world. And the United States government has
Donald Trump's
openly
taxes?
argued in court that the New York Times case at the Supreme Court in the Pentagon Papers case, that in the dicta of several Supreme Court judges in that case, they stated the New York Times could have been prosecuted under the Espionage Act. And the United States government has, in court here at the Old Bailey, absolutely asserted the right to prosecute journalists under the Espionage Act for possession of classified information, however they obtained that information. And they have relied on a very controversial case known as the Rosen case.
Go ahead and pause it there, Carlos. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to end it off, because that's, as I was saying earlier, like, oh, how can they, supersede this extradition, clause in England? And it's because, via the Espionage Act, they basically claim they can extradite whoever the fuck they want, lock whoever the fuck they want up. It doesn't matter if you stole the information, if someone gave you the information, if someone just reported the information. Because they're saying they're even willing to say the Pentagon Papers is, that should have been an Espionage Act. Ellsberg should have been, thrown in jail for the Espionage Act. That's just for the New York Times reporting it. So they don't they'll use the Espionage Act on anyone, anywhere, and it's, we need to get rid of that shit.
Yes.
Truth. It's antiquated, but it's antiquated on purpose. They've kept it around for a long time because they can use it for shit like this.
Which usually only ends up hurting us.
Yeah, absolutely.
To hide their monstrosity.
Well, if the precedent now is that, not that the New York Times is going to report anything fucking good, but let's say someone smaller, like Jacobin or something, has like, you know, reports like a war crime or something, and then they're like, hey, fuck you, you know, we're going to do the Espionage Act, and you're going to go to jail for just publishing something.
Yeah, because, well, the whole point is they want to make sure anyone who even has access to this information doesn't have anywhere to go to get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because even those places that can get it out there, they won't take it now if they know that they're going to go to jail.
I was going to say this is almost kind of a bit of a backfire in my mind, because what better way to prove that these people are posting true and correct information than to prosecute them for it?
Yeah, right? Exactly. And it's such a blatant... Well, that's why they've made sure no media is covering this, because it's so blatantly just not even a fucking trial. Like, if people actually... If this was really exposed and got as much coverage as other things did, like, yeah, people would be seeing through this.
They know people would be pissed.
Yes, yeah, because it's that bullshit. Does anyone have any final thoughts on this one before we move to the next thing?
No, really quick. I'm cutting out pretty bad. I don't know what's going on. So just be patient if I start going all Optimus Prime on everyone.
You're a little bit.
This is the price for telling the truth.
Yeah, I think it's just a bad internet night.
They're shutting us down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spectrum throttling.
Yep. The New York Times is taking us down.
Do we want?
But yeah, I'm more Mosaic than you.
Yeah, we're good though. Well, we're spitting the knowledge. We're on fire, so we're good. Let's flip the.
Do you want to get to that?
Yeah. I'll just touch on this shortly since that last video was pretty long. This is important though. Here from the headline, Guardian: Amazon near tipping point of switching from rainforest to savannah. Climate crisis and logging is leading to shift from canopy rainforest to open grassland. Much of the Amazon could be on the verge of losing its distinct nature and switching from a closed canopy rainforest to an open savanna with far fewer trees as a result of the climate crisis, researchers have warned. Rainforests are highly sensitive to changes in rainfall and moisture levels, and fires and prolonged droughts can result in areas losing trees and shifting to a savanna-like mix of woodland and grassland. In the Amazon, such changes were known to be possible, but thought to be many decades away. New research shows that this tipping point could be much closer than previously thought. As much as 40% of the existing Amazon rainforest is now at a point where it could exist as a savanna instead of as a rainforest, according to a study published in the journal Nature Communications. Any shift from rainforest to savanna would still take decades to take full effect. But once underway, the process is hard to reverse. Rainforests support a vastly greater range of species than savanna and play a much greater role in absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Parts of the Amazon are receiving much less rain than they used to because of the changing climate. Rainfall in about 40% of the forest is now at a level where the rainforest could be expected to exist as savanna instead, according to the study led by the Stockholm Resilience Center based on computer models and data. Last year, Brazil's president, Jair Bolsonaro, was warned that the continued destruction of the Amazon by fire and loggers would bring the region closer to a tipping point where rainforests could turn to savanna. This year's fires in the Amazon are the worst in a decade, with a 60% increase in fire hotspots compared with last year. We could just end it there, but it was a big story when the Amazon was burning down.
Jair Bolsonaro.
Yeah, that's why I liked to end it there.
If you're part of any climate extinction rebellion, any group like that, it's time to get serious.
I'm putting out an open
There's
bound.
no more time.
The reward is 1 Mike's Hard Lemonade tall can to whoever takes out Bolsonaro.
Probably, I thought COVID would take him out, but he's got it like 12 times now. So
yeah,
we gotta hit. It would be pretty funny if him and Trump, like, their blood is what we have to all take that.
Yeah, their blood.
to survive.
Their blood is the cure.
And Boris Johnson.
Yeah, and Boris Johnson. Yeah, just all the people.
But hate. Yeah, I mean, the headline alone is insane. Yeah, like it's yeah.
Yeah, and I think the headline, as it points out, is the main worrying thing is as the forest is logged and burns down, and rainfall decreases, it's going to get on those negative feedback loops where we can't reverse it no matter what we do. It's just going to keep getting worse until it becomes a savannah, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no stopping that. So, I mean, now it seems like it's going to happen regardless, and like Carlos said, like those groups like Extinction Rebellion or anything like that, like, I mean, we have to take in the realization that we're already in fucking, the next mass extinction. It's already happening. It's gonna happen. It's how do we sit with that and go from here?
It's just the whole media landscape is just totally suppressing like any discussion or like real action on this stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, they're pretty much just denying the reality that everyone sees every day as things get worse and worse. Like, no matter where you live.
I mean, that's their job. Their job is to paint a picture that everything's okay, regardless of how terrible the situation.
Environmentally, economically, socially, everything is just a facade.
Yeah. Maybe that's our theme for the night, is a lot of this shit isn't getting covered because it's...
Because if they covered it, then it'd move everything in the direction of solving it. So if you cut off it's like you kill the plant before it can take root. Just like they're doing with the Amazon.
If you tell people that the profit motive is what's causing this, they're like, oh, let's get rid of the profit motive. But the profit motive is our entire system. So they have to hide that. If they know that all we have to do is just put people over profit, then it's over.
I think in
and
reality,
they're going to continue.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm roboting out, so I'm trying to talk and then.
I was gonna say,
Go ahead, Carlos.
I think there's a little bit of theory, but in my mind, I think all of like the upper media and the elite, I think they all know that they're just how shit they really are, and how useless they are. But it's just anything to maintain their position, to not give it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why these 100%. Are the people you should be the most skeptical of anything they say.
Do we want to go to the next piece from here? I just want to touch on it short. We shouldn't be short with these things, but it seems like now climate catastrophe is so rampant that you almost can't spend all your time on it.
Yeah.
Or on one thing, with fires happening everywhere now.
Yeah, if we want to continue, we have an example here of a very valid option that could be very helpful in curbing the climate catastrophe that Carlos found.
Well, once again, thanks to Graham Elwood, he's real good at trying to cover this stuff when people send it in to him, and so it's where I hear a lot of stuff about actual solutions we could have. But here this is kind of a off the wall website that it links to, but it's a pretty good well documented article, and obviously there'll be a link to it in the description, but you got to make an account and everything, so it's not a big deal, but just letting everyone know. So this whole article is about agroforestry and better sustainable farming practices that can help regenerate the land and sequester carbon and deal with the effects of climate change, and not totally mitigate them, because obviously we're still going to have to face the reality that our fossil fuel consumption, and on top of that our energy consumption food consumption, and just general capitalist consumption is all way beyond any sustainable level. And stuff like this, if we started mass implementing it at a local level, could really make a difference in getting communities more sustainable food without having to have massive agro farming or agro business. And instead, a lot of the stuff could be more locally owned and operated, and it could be just a better option for a way of life. You know, obviously, not everyone wants to live this kind of a life where you come into a city and you work like an office job or some corporate gig and try to work your way up. That's not what being human's all about. And I bet plenty of people would much rather be doing this. And even if you're not getting rich off of it, you're just getting by. I mean, a lot of people would take this any day.
Yeah, it's better than our normal daily degradation.
And it's helping the planet too.
Yeah,
but
yeah, you feel like you're part of something.
But unfortunately, that's the problem with it, is there's not a whole lot of profit in it. And so that's why our system ignores this kind of stuff, just tosses it to the side. But I'll just go over some of the few points at the top to kind of get you an idea, because this article is quite lengthy, and I recommend that everyone checks it out. But we don't have a ton of time here, so... story at a glance. Degenerative food, farming, livestock, and land use practices have decarbonized and killed off much of the biological life and natural carbon sequestering capacity of our soils, forests, and ecosystems. A new agave-based agroforestry and livestock feeding model developed in Guanajuato,
fool. I went there. It's very pretty.
They almost took you out there.
Yeah, I almost died there. No cap.
It seemed like they had a lot of kind of farming area out there.
Yeah, because that general area, agave grows fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, and it's a real, like, the city itself is this real, like, mountainous kind of valley. So it's like, yeah, it's probably the perfect place to grow that kind of stuff.
So this new model promises to revitalize small farmer livestock production while storing massive amounts of atmospheric carbon above and below ground. Scaled up on millions of currently degraded and overgrazed rangelands, these agave and agroforestry systems have the potential to not only improve soil and pasture health, but to help mitigate and potentially reverse global warming, also known as climate change. If farmers and ranchers can stop overgrazing pastures and rangelands, eliminate slash and burn practices like we're seeing in the Amazon that's being done for big business, eliminate slash and burn practices and instead reforest, revegetate, rehydrate, and recarbonize depleted soils, integrating traditional and indigenous water catchment, agroforestry, livestock, and land management practices. With agave-based agroforestry, we may be able to green the drylands and store and sequester massive amounts of carbon. So this really just goes to show that there are plenty of solutions out there. It's just, it sucks that not a lot of them are profitable, so there's not a whole lot of initiative being taken, but that's why you got to support the nonprofits. That's where a lot of good work is being done, because unfortunately that's the only place where it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought this was super cool. But yeah, on the bigger topic, the biggest, like, I guess like one of the biggest takeaways is like we just talked about that regardless of how we feel about it, we've gotten to a point where a climate we fucked up our climate so bad that some of the damage or most of the damage is irreversible, and all we can do now is work to curb and try to reverse what we can to make this a bit an inhabitable and better planet for future generations. because most likely we're not going to see any of this work we do. Before we see any huge amounts of change, it's not going to happen in our generation, and possibly not even next generation. But we have to take that, internalize that, and understand that it is so important that we do as much work as we can while we're here to make a better life for those who will be here when we're gone. To continue to endlessly fight every day for a better future, for a future where the basic needs, our basic human needs are taken care of, and we're free to live the life that we find that we're destined to live. We're not stuck working for a capitalist overlord. We're not stuck doing this job that we feel alienated from. I touch on this all the time. I think I talk about it pretty much every show. Moving away from the profit motive is so important because it allows us to live the lives that we were supposed to live, not the lives that we're forced to live because we live in such a way where we're forced to work just to survive. Our goal currently with work isn't for the betterment of society. It's for the betterment of a few people's pockets, and that's something that fundamentally needs to change.
Off the back of maintaining society. It's
Yeah,
not like obviously these businesses are just doing useless things. It's just they've incorporated themselves into the very structure of society to make you think that if we don't have them, that we don't have society at all.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and what I mean is we should work jobs as a way to further society. We shouldn't work a job because we won't survive if we don't. The point of the point of our work.
For survival.
Yeah.
Capital survival. Yeah.
Exactly. It should be for the survival of the human race and the betterment and advancement of the human race.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Carl's made a good point there, though. It's and you're with that too. Is we have to change because those things, we can't act like those things are immovable. These things haven't fucking existed forever. Capitalism is new and shit, and we need to move on from it.
It's evolved slavery. That's all it is. Yeah. And we very much can move on. We can move forward, and we can move forward better. We can be better at it,
100%. Do you have anything else from this?
Did we have anything else?
Carlos?
No, that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Do you want to read
we can go. We can.
What?
I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe it was Carlos who found this. It's this interesting article here from Jacobin. I just had to pull it up really quick. Reading here, starting at the top. The top 1% owns nearly everything in the U.S. We need to seize their wealth. Capitalism I can't read. Systemically concentrates. I really can't read. Holy shit. Wealth at the top of society. As the latest U.S. figures confirm yet again, the solution: massive wealth redistribution that attacks disparities across the board. Last week, the Federal Reserve released the latest version of the Survey of Consumer Finances, the premier source of information on the distribution of household wealth in the United States. The new SCF data confirms much of what we already know about who owns America, but it also helps dispel some common misconceptions about demographic disparities in wealth holdings. Millionaires and billionaires own almost everything. In 2019, families with net worths exceeding $1 million owned 79.2% of all the household wealth in the country. The bottom half of American families held just 1.5% of the wealth.
I wanted to say something real quick on this. This is, I think, some of the greatest data I've seen to support the tremendous job that President Donald Trump has been doing to help the working class of this country. As you can see, that upper rate is dropped ever so slightly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's doing so great with the bottom half of American families having less than 2% of the wealth. Yep. Thanks, Dad.
Getting back into it. While astronomical, this level of inequality should come as no surprise. Capitalist economies contain feedback loops that tend to accumulate wealth in the hands of a small number of families at the top of society. This fact has been understood for a long time, even among non-socialist economists, but it often gets overlooked in mainstream outlets. Instead, most journalists prefer to focus on wealth disparities that exist between demographic groups. Demographic disparities can be very misleading. Although wealth differences absolutely exist between demographic groups and represent a pressing problem we need to solve, the way those disparities are discussed often confuses more than it enlightens. The standard way to talk about intergroup wealth differences is to compare the median or mean wealth of various groups to one another. In the graph below, I do this for age, education, and race. And we can see here mean wealth by race. You have other white, black, obviously. Having
massive disparity, black and Latino.
Yeah, massive disparity. A lot of that obviously coming from the lack of opportunity to create intergenerational wealth, et cetera, because of the lack of human rights that they've been given until they still, we're still fighting on that front, but come a long way, I guess.
This is an interesting one because I'd like to see what the breakdown would be between college levels of college education.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Because they're not showing between some college and like degrees of college degrees.
Yeah.
Like what your master's or if you have a bachelor's or what college you go to. Yeah, it'd be interesting if they had like Ivy schooling versus. Obviously, the disparity would be way worse than even this.
Well, because it's just the positions where they want these so-called important people. They know where to find them, know where to pick them up.
Yeah.
But the graphs, they just show old white people just own everything. They have it all. Because they've had access to intergenerational wealth since the dawn of time. They've been able to accrue, hold, and pass along the money they've made throughout the generations, whereas other groups have been oppressed in segregation, slavery,
this one is real bad.
Yeah, specifically because of one group, the 18 to 35 group there.
Which most of us fall in.
all of us here fall in.
Yeah, all of us here.
Yeah.
But some of our, our parents are like right in that
right
top
there.
of that area. Getting back into it, these overall statistics appear to tell a simple and intuitive story. Older people are wealthier than younger people because they've had longer to accumulate wealth because they had better economic experiences than younger generations today, which is also a fact that I forgot to bring up. Completely different world we're living in now versus when these guys are our age.
100%.
White people are richer than Black and Latino people because of past and present racism in America, and individuals with college degrees are wealthier than those with less education because of the earning premium that college graduates enjoy. I mean, and usually when you have the opportunity to go to school, you already have some, you have access to some wealth already.
You're already starting at an advantage, yeah.
Exactly. All of these things are true to some extent and can help explain overall differences. But this sort of analysis can cause some people to think that overall wealth inequality in society is primarily an artifact of racial, educational, and age-based disparities. In reality, the level of wealth inequality within each group is virtually identical to the wealth inequality that we see in society as a whole. And basically, every demographic group, the top 20% owns around 80 to 85% of the group's wealth, while the bottom half owns 0 to 5% of it. Which is how do you even fathom that? How do you even think, how do you process that?
So clearly no one race is the problem here.
Exactly.
Right, as this breakdown is showing.
And just some more graphs here. Carlos, if you want to talk about these graphs, go ahead, man. You found this. You found this.
No, I mean, the reason I'm not really talking about them is just because it goes on for a while and there's a lot of data, so I'm just kind of making sure it all gets its screen time.
Right.
Yeah, see, Jesus.
But yeah, most of this kind of is just mostly painting the picture that, like, it's kind of more dispelling the identity politics myth, where it kind of applies identity politics to every group and then breaks it down by the range. And you see that at pretty much every demographic, all the wealth is concentrated at the top, no matter what group it is.
Right, within each group.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you have anything you wanted to read from this specifically? Because, like I said, yeah, this is all you. You're our numbers guy.
Yeah, not. It's just. I guess that pretty much just drives the point home.
Yeah, to tack on with what Carlos said. Yeah, I guess that is the main point. Is you can see here that both, that identity politic part where there is systemic racism and that does start people at a disadvantage. That is true, but also the main means of changing society isn't just to address systemic racism by general platitudes of considering, we're all equal. We have to change capitalism itself, because the problem is, and as it shows here in each demographic group, the wealth.
The problem is the system itself.
At the top. Yeah, the system itself, regardless of education, regardless of what group you fall in, it concentrates all the power and wealth at the top and puts very little at the bottom.
And it doesn't matter who's at the. It doesn't matter who's at the top.
Whatever group it is, that's how it is. It's set up like that.
Which is why you have
pretty much the amount of wealth. Yeah.
Which is why you have popular groups like the Black Socialists of America say, Black capitalists aren't going to be our saviors, because it's just going to continue the same system. It's just going to look different.
Yeah, or Fred Hampton of the Black Panthers. We're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism. You got to fight it with socialism. That's the only way.
The root problem itself is the capitalism. That's it. It's what's creating this system.
And that's the Black Panthers. They did the most of probably anybody to fight, other than MLK's coalition too, to fight systemic racism. So they understand both realities.
And here at the bottom, they do kind of give you I'd say the one that everyone wanted to know about, but it's the decile breakdown by race.
Right.
And you can see that, yes, while white people at the very top do make up the majority, it's obviously it's more overall a reflection of how white people are just kind of the population majority, and it really reflects that.
Right.
But it's like you guys mentioned, it wouldn't be too long before we start seeing the trends kind of move in the other direction, but the wealth concentration not really change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still people owning massive amounts at the top and people owning very little at the bottom.
It's like the difference between the poor whites and the rich whites. Like that's where a lot of the origins of racism came from. It was the wealthy elites in England that hated the poor, thought of them as a different class or literally a different race than them.
Right. Do we want to... Michael actually has one to report on here. It's an older article, but I think it's still important. Short. Yeah, we should still touch on it.
And I know that once it comes up on screen, the title says Disney announces 28,000 layoffs amid continued closure of Disneyland. Now, yes, this is an older article that came out on September 30th, so last Wednesday. I also read that as of recently, from another article that we don't have currently up on screen, but that I think they laid off another 8,000.
Wow.
From the 28,000. But continuing to the article, Anaheim, California. As Disneyland remains closed during the coronavirus pandemic, Disney announced Tuesday it will lay off about 28,000 employees, in its parks, experiences, and products division. On top of that, another 8,000, because this is also our article. About 2/3 of the layoffs are part-time employees. In light of the, in light of the prolonged impact of COVID-19 on our business, including limited capacity due to physical distancing requirements and the continued uncertainty regarding the duration of the pandemic, exacerbated in California by the state's unwillingness to lift restrictions that would allow Disneyland to reopen. We have made the very difficult decision to begin the process of reducing our workforce at the parks, experiences, and products segment at all levels, having kept non-working cast members on furlough since April, while paying healthcare benefits, end quote. Said Josh D. Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products, and then quote, over the past several months, we've been forced to make a number of necessary adjustments to our business, and as difficult as the decision is today, we believe that the steps we are taking will enable us to emerge a more effective and efficient operation when we return to normal. So just to quickly touch on, these employees are also union workers. Part-time union employees that were working for Disney Parks, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because that is kind of crazy. And again, another 8,000 yesterday. I think they announced it yesterday, as a matter of fact. That another 8,000 were.
That's a good point though, because it shows how hollowed out our unions are too. Because,
right?
I mean, Disney has all the power here. And
yeah.
That final fucking statement by Josh D'Amaro or whatever, the chairman for the parks, fuck that guy. I mean, we're forced to make a number of necessary adjustments to our business. Fucking a necessary adjustment to your, billion-dollar company is to lay off thousands of people and put them in a, extremely difficult position.
Necessary to maintain our pay.
This is what Disney is, one of the biggest companies in the world.
Well,
Sorry,
it's no problem to them because they can fire the people now that they don't need them, and then they'll hire new people when they do. No problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, Ian?
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring up just quick numbers real quick because Jacan was talking about how our union force is very hollowed out, and it's very true. I think in 2019. It was reported, I think, only like 10% unionization across the entire U.S. And that doesn't necessarily mean that every union's a good union. Yeah. So, or not even a good union, but a strong union. But the unionization rate in comparison to like more industrial or more like our similar or comparable nations with higher levels of socialization, you see much higher unionization rates.
Yeah, and as you pointed out too,
I just wanted to bring that up really quick.
Like effective unions too. Like if you guys remember this, during the Nevada election, I think it was like the culinary union or whatever backed.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Buttigieg?
It was. I thought that was Warren.
Yeah, it was one. It was someone, not Bernie. That's all. But it was the key part.
But the actual the.
Go ahead.
It was the actual union and the union bosses that did the endorsement for Warren, I believe, or it could have been Buttigieg. But the actual members of the union wanted to pick Bernie Sanders, but the union bosses decided to go against the people they represent to go to move forward with their own interests. So yeah, that's an example of even though we have some unions, not all of them are strong or necessarily even legit. Some of them are very corrupt.
Well, it shows how
and some of them should.
Sorry, it shows how the.
No, I was just gonna say fuck police unions.
Well, it shows how the unions can come to mimic the same corporations they're fighting against.
Yes.
That's Definitely. What it shows. We need a real democratic ownership at the base level to make sure that kind of shit doesn't get out of control. And then you have people being against unions because of it.
Right, because they get this misconception.
And you have corporations in your training when you get hired brainwashing you with anti-union propaganda.
Yeah.
It's
like
it's
you
all,
touched on in an earlier podcast that we did. Like, I think
well,
it
yeah,
was like
when
our
I
third or fourth
started
podcast.
my job at
Started your
Staples, in
job,
my
yeah.
training, they were telling me that was my first job, right? But I was already, into somewhat leftist circles in politics, so I already knew this was bullshit. It was somebody who isn't into politics at all, and they start their job I'm sure they do this everywhere else, but specifically Staples, when they feed you all this bullshit about, unions are bad because unions do this, unions do that. It puts that in your memory, and you think about it. So when you hear the unions come up, you're like, oh wait, Staples said unions were bad, so they're probably bad. Like, it's insane that we even allow them to do anti-union propaganda in like actual like training modules to teach you how to do your job.
And as soon as people think that their job is on the line, it's like, forget about trying to convince them into a union.
Yeah, 100%.
And because we has like such a like
what? Oh, okay. The Anaheim theme
no,
park.
sorry,
closed
I'm
in
like
March for the
I'm lagging
pandemic.
my internet being.
Oh, is that what? Yeah, because your timing's like really off. I think.
No, yeah, there's a huge delay. Like I just said that and then took you a while to. Anyway, continue.
Okay.
I forget what I said.
The Anaheim theme park closed in March for the pandemic. At the time, employees were placed on furlough, and the company continued paying their benefits. Disney officials have been arguing the state to issue guidelines that would allow the park to reopen safely. Walt Disney World in Florida reopened over the summer. The layoffs were described as impacting domestic employees, but it was not immediately specified how the job losses would be split up among the Disney Parks Experiences and Products business unit, which includes Disneyland, Walt Disney World, other parks around the world, Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, Walt Disney Engine, and other consumer products, retail stores, publishing, games, and other products. D. Amaro said part of the reason for the need for layoffs was exasperated
Masturbated.
in California by the state's unwillingness to lift restrictions that would allow Disneyland to reopen. And just going
Thank
down
you,
just
big
a little
business.
bit further. Earlier Tuesday, a group of California state lawmakers urged Governor Gavin Newsom to issue guidelines that would allow theme parks like Disneyland, as well as Universal Studios, Six Flags Magic Mountain, and others to reopen. So they're already in talks with the lawmakers to safely, I guess, within guidelines to open up parks, not as just Disneyland, but other well-known parks as well.
Yet they lay off all these people.
With large population. Right.
Yeah, they're saying that's the reason they have to lay off all these people, and then they're actually in talks to reopen, and they still lay off all these people.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Shows how,
and then
and then when they reopen, they're obviously they're gonna need more employees now. Like they're like, okay, well we're kind of low on employees. We just kicked everybody off the team basically, but. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I know it was like a little quick one, but I thought it was interesting, especially because of 28,000 employees and then 8,000 or obviously union workers. So
my favorite part of this article is at the very end. The Walt Disney Corporation is the parent company of this station.
Oh my god.
Just because they had to make sure to give you that little disclosure in case there might be any conflict of interest.
At least they told us. Democracy dies in darkness. Let's never forget. In the basketball realm, obviously it's go Lakers, but they really fucking dropped the ball when they stopped their strike because
fuck Barack Obama.
Yeah, fuck Barack Obama, but as we know, the whole stage for the NBA playoffs has been the Disney World bubble, and I'm sure Disney has made fat money on that, and then they're just doing shit like this.
I'm sure.
Yeah, what a fucking joke that shit is. Like making
extra disgusting.
Making all, and they even did like the shit I said they should do, and they have all the faces of what I assume are people who paid tickets to and they got their faces up, so all the money they made from that, they made their ticket money.
Oh yeah, 100%. And some stats I've seen, like for some of the playoff games, like more people have watched than have watched in recent years. Like mostly because a lot of people are inside and got nothing to do, but a shit ton of people are watching.
Yeah,
and there's
just all the revenue streams that it generates too. Yeah, just other than that,
yeah, all the traffic, people, all the extra NBA stuff, all the jerseys, all that shit,
advertising,
yeah,
that's got to be massive. It's got to be pretty close to like Super Bowl levels.
Trillion dollar business. I mean, look at the money they pay they would, if they could, they'd pay the players $5. But
well, actually, if you think about it, it could be more because it's like 7 games it could go to.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, these players make hundreds of millions of dollars, so it's like if they're willing to give them that, like this whole operation is worth so much.
Right.
Do we want to go into just a little Prop 15 coverage real quick?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and talk about it for a minute. Obviously, we still want to do a thing where we like kind of cover the whole California ballot. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's like a voter's guide kind of thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that like comprehensive or complicated either. Like I think we could lay it out pretty simply.
Yeah, lay it out.
Definitely, yeah.
But for now, like what we did with 22, maybe it's these more interesting ones we can take a more in-depth look because they're interesting what they're proposing too. 22 for different reasons because it's absolutely dog shit and as I now know. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I'm saying like insane amount of money from lobbyists and the corporations.
Not just an insane amount of money. The most for any California ballot measure or no U.S. ballot measure ever. 180.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that till now.
That's insane. So
yeah, and it looks like it's probably going to go yes. Like it's a 50-50 split, the polling. So, and 15 that we have here looks pretty similar to in the polling is pretty 50-50 because people don't necessarily understand it. Here it is. California Proposition 15. Tax on commercial and industrial properties for education and local government funding initiative. Here, a yes vote supports this constitutional amendment to require commercial and industrial properties, except those zoned as commercial agriculture. That has some, losses and benefits to that part of it, but to be taxed based on their market value rather than their purchase price. A no vote opposes this constitutional amendment, thus continuing to tax commercial and industrial properties based on a property's purchase price, with annual increases equal to the rate of inflation, with fucking nothing still compared to the market price. What would Proposition 15 change about how properties are taxed in California? Proposition 15 would amend the California state constitution to require commercial and industrial properties, except those zoned as commercial agriculture, to be taxed based on their market value. In California, the proposal to assess taxes on commercial and industrial properties at market value, while continuing to assess taxes on residential properties based on the purchase price, is known as split roll. The change from the price to market value would be phased in beginning in fiscal year 2022-2023. Properties such as retail centers whose occupants are 50% or more small businesses would be taxed based on market value beginning in fiscal year 2025. So it gives them, these smaller businesses more time to adjust. Proposition 15 would define small businesses as those that are independently owned and operated, own California property, and have 50 or fewer employees. The ballot initiative would make an exception for properties whose business owners have 3 million or less in holdings in California. That should be lower than that, but these properties would continue to be taxed based on their purchase price. The ballot initiative would exempt a small business's tangible personal property from taxes and $500,000 in value of a non-small business's tangible personal property. We could skip further down, or just the next one. The state fiscal analyst estimated that upon full implementation, the ballot initiative would generate between $8 billion and $12.5 billion revenue per year. And further down, I mean, essentially what they want to do is use this to fund, community colleges, grants, etc. Obviously, we all want fucking college for all and some form of free college.
Of course.
But
as well as wiping the slate clean with debt.
Yeah, as far as a step in the right direction, though, and making these, people that have bought these properties and poured, millions, if not billions of dollars into them, and now their market price is worth way more than that. They're just paying, by forcing them to pay a little more tax, we're getting, all these benefits, more money for education, etc. So
anywhere from 8 to 12.5 billion.
Yeah,
in extra revenue per year.
So any of these, props that are, redistributing this wealth that's concentrated at the top and putting it back into the public sector for us, fuck yeah. So
yeah.
And there's been I haven't seen any television attack ads, but it is interesting that it's pulling 50%, around 50% both sides. So there is obviously some vested interest in making sure this doesn't pass.
That's why it's super important.
Anyone who has a property of more than 3 million.
Yeah, exactly. Which is none of us.
Super important for all of us. Everybody watching, everybody who will watch. Vote. You do not necessarily even for the president, but down ballot, state and local propositions, all that. It's super important, and it will affect your life more directly than any whoever is the fucking president.
Way more than the president. Don't even stress who the fuck the president is.
Yeah.
Ken Bone said he's voting for Joe Jorgensen. So
yeah, that's like.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, sorry, America, if you were standing Ken Bone.
Yeah.
I love Bone.
No, I still stand Ken Bone. He just wants libertarianism, right? Libertarianism.
Freedom.
He just wants
freedom for all corporations.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but yeah, super important. Vote. So, fuck a president. Make sure you're voting on your propositions. That will affect your life so much more than anything else. That's super important.
But if you do decide to vote for president, remember, you can always write in Jesse Ventura.
Hell yeah. Please write in Jesse
Ventura.
Vote.
I don't give a fuck who you choose. Yeah, I'm not telling you to vote for him. I'm just saying he's very likely actually going to be a valid write-in option, which I looked into it a little bit. I'm not going to show anything on screen, but all the different states have their own requirements and such, and I didn't know this, some states don't even allow write-in candidates. Yes. There are 8 states that won't accept write-ins.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Do you remember any of the specific
Hawaii's
states?
one of them.
That's funny.
Kansas, I think.
Hawaii and Kansas.
There are a few others, yeah.
Yep.
But on the same side, there's also ones that always allow write-ins, so no matter what, they'll count them. And then the majority of states have some arbitrary requirement.
Right.
But the deadlines are surprisingly late. Like California's is October 20th to be a valid write-in candidate.
Yeah, that's pretty long actually.
So it's not done yet. I think after that they post an official list or something. But they won't be on the ballot obviously since people have them already. Yeah.
And we have the privilege of doing write-ins here in California too, because obviously fucking Biden's gonna win our state 100%. Yeah. If you say anything different, you're a fucking fool. It's literally gonna happen. So if you're just if your calculus is harm mitigation and you're like, I'm gonna vote for fucking Joe Biden, and you live in California, there's literally no point. You're not doing any harm mitigation. You're just throwing your vote away.
And let's be honest.
Not that your president.
If a third party candidate actually won California, it would make a bigger effect in politics going forward than giving Donald Trump another term. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it would have a huge fucking impact if the fucking, the fifth largest economy, like a third party just won in our state. Like,
I mean, that'd be an honest trade-off. You get Donald Trump for 4 more years, but third party's viable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really quick, we probably don't have any people watch. Yeah, we probably don't have anybody watching currently who live in a swing state. But if you live in a swing state and you believe in the harm reduction approach, don't feel bad as a lefty for voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I'm somewhat sympathetic to that argument. But in California, it's like, don't.
Oh yeah, we live in California. I am 100% writing in probably Jesse.
Yeah, you shitting me?
Well, I'm just one person, but I'm definitely along the thinking of now that voting for big name Democrats and Republicans. I'm not talking about small local level candidates. You got to judge them individually, see whether they're bought or not. But at the big names like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, like, don't waste your time with them.
Yeah, to me, it's still wasting your mental energy.
You're legitimizing garbage.
Yeah. It's a waste of your energy. There's just more important things to think about and spend your time on than who's going to be the president and who you should vote for in your state. Because honestly, as this whole election and the last one has played out, it's pretty clear it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Well, after Obama's terms.
Yeah, after Obama's yeah.
Who's in charge of the state you live in is always going to be more important than who runs the entire country.
Yeah, and you have more power over deciding that.
But the people have the capacity to change your life directly through the state you live in. It's definitely a lot more important than some fucking guy in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
We got one more banger left from our boy Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske. Carlos brought us this video. Well, we're gonna play this, do our outro, and let you guys go on with your night.
A little quick, short one.
We'll plug our guests here after this. Tell you guys about.
We'll do the big reveal right after this video.
We will leak.
WikiLeaks.
Real short, only be 2 minutes. We won't watch the whole thing, but enjoy.
This is amazing because I feel like the Pope is getting progressively further and further left. The Pope says market capitalism has failed in pandemic and needs reform. Quote, aside from the differing ways that various countries responded to the crisis, their inability to work together became quite evident. Now, as I read this article, it became clear to me they're perhaps even like underselling his arguments. Like, they're almost making him seem more moderate than he is. So let me give you some of the quotes. Here's one. It is very difficult nowadays to invoke the rational criteria elaborated in earlier centuries to speak of the possibility of a just war. What that means is he's saying we're way too militaristic, we do way too many wars, and none of these wars I see are just. These aren't just wars. So let's stop fighting wars. So on top of the economic stuff, now he's leaning into like foreign policy stuff, and there's too much violence and war happening around. That's awesome. On the economy, he says, anyone who thinks that the only lesson to be learned was the need to improve what we were already doing or to refine existing systems and regulations is denying reality. So he's saying reform isn't the answer. We need more radical change. We need a page one rewrite. We need to start from scratch and build from the bottom up and have a totally new economy. Because things are so messed up, you can't just reform it and make it better. That's what he's saying. More. The fragility of world systems in the face of the pandemic has demonstrated that not everything can be resolved by market freedom. More. Neoliberalism simply reproduces itself by resorting to magic theories of spillover or trickle without using the name as the only solution to societal problems. There's little appreciation of the fact that the alleged spillover does not resolve the inequality that gives rise to new forms of violence threatening the fabric of society.
That's fire, dude. Straight heat from the Pope. Fucking... I'm surprised the church has not assassinated this man. Like, a while ago, when he was speaking out against climate change, too. Which was unprecedented.
Yeah, it's really cool to actually see a pope within my lifetime who would maybe more willingly convince me to consider religion. But
yeah, and there's still criticisms you can find with not just him, but obviously the church at large too.
Oh yeah.
He's
like, obviously not representative of the church at whole.
Yeah, well,
even if he is the Pope.
Even within his own personal actions too. I remember there's like the whole Rohingya people and Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, and he went there and basically just refused to speak about the genocide that was happening there.
Yeah.
So but still, like, to see something like this in our lifetime is pretty unreal. Like, what I found entertaining was and I totally agree with him too, that, you know, in modern era, especially what we've seen, there is no such thing as a just war anymore, especially the way we wage war. But
yeah,
it's just funny considering, like, up until maybe the last 100, 200 years, like, half of all wars was caused by the Catholic Church, probably.
Yep.
Probably way more than half, actually. Like, but yeah,
the wars over the Holy Land.
Yeah, and now, you know, not the Catholic Church, but obviously that's still sustaining with fucking, you know, Israel doing disgusting shit, and the evangelicals here, but is there anything?
Just more violence in the name of religion.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I think we're it's wrap up time here.
Do you wanna plug our guest? Do you wanna do the honors?
Yeah. So, Oxnardians, we have a very special guest, one that a lot of you are very familiar with. Our very own Caesar Beezer, Rap Patrol, the man himself. He's gonna be here. He's gonna be here on Sunday. And we're gonna talk it all. I'm very prepared to get roasted a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
It's gonna be super good, super fun, a lot of laughs, I think. But also,
our show will be similar.
We're gonna talk about some serious shit. Probably.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say I'm just gonna talk a lot of, like, probably get a little local here. I'm lagging. I'm super sorry. I'm like hearing myself and then going robot mode.
We had a good show though.
But yeah, it's gonna be super good. Yeah, I think so. Does anybody else want to say something? Because I'm just talking into you guys at this point.
I think
everybody's laughing. I don't know why.
I think I've said everything. Yeah. Does anyone want like a final statement here to leave everyone off with?
No, I just hope everyone tunes in. Are we doing same time on Sunday?
Yeah, 10:30. 10:30.
Yes. It's gonna be this Sunday. We'll obviously tweet it out. Follow us on the socials and everything.
We'll also tweet out.
Just
in case you weren't here, we're also gonna tweet out the who the guest will be also. So Caesar, just to announce it on Twitter as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think we're good here. As I say every night, workers of the world unite. Hope everybody enjoyed their stay. If you're new, drop a follow. If you're watching and you don't have an account, create an account and follow us. It helps us numbers wise, and you'll also be able to keep up to date notifications, or with notifications, I mean. I'll go ahead and type socials in chat so you can follow us on our Twitter. Yeah.
What song we playing for the
Thank
outro?
you guys.
You didn't really specify.
Oh, here, I got you. My bad. Let's
While
go
he
ahead
does
and
that-
let's do that serotonin song.
All right.
Check out our
But yeah.
last vid we had a great interview too. I want to replug that one.
Yes.
So
Yeah, very interesting topic.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jennifer Ruiz,
Yeah,
shout
check-
out. That was a good interview.
Whole videos on YouTube, all timestamps and everything's up, links.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, everything's on our YouTube. Check it out. Again, thank you guys so much. Workers of the World Unite. We'll be back. Let's get the mics cut and the music playing. Everybody, have a good night.